Hold on, I pressed it, but it's okay.
Hello, everybody. Today, our special guest is Tony Sayers. Tony is an awakened spiritual healer and author of 5 books, including Are You Living or Just Existing? And The New Age is the New Cage. Tony offers one-on-one healing sessions covering chakra overlay removal, inner child sessions, entity alien technology and interdimensional removal, sexual cord cutting, soul retrieval, body and anatomy symbiosis sessions, and pranic healing. Tony has said change comes only when we face negative square in the face, like warriors, and challenge them head on, no matter how hard the road looks, transcending negatives into positives. And only then will we see permanent, long-lasting change. And I think that couldn't be more pertinent than now. So, Tony, in my eyes, you're a warrior of change, and thanks for being with us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed the last one immensely, so it's good to be invited back, and yeah, hope you're all doing really well.
That's cool. I'm really excited. I mean, I love what you do. You're always gracious. You always help people out. You bring people on your channel, and you're very selfless. And you can go all spectrums. You know, you can go totally truth and totally spiritual. So that's what I love about you. And if you look at what I read, I said you offer entity alien technology, interdimensional removal, and soul retrieval. I mean, I know I want to get to everything, and we have a great panel, so we'll cover, the new age and how you really, you have your reasons for that, a kind of spiritual bypassing, and it's another savior program. But for the guy walking on the street who doesn't even really understand why maybe he feels so tired, or why he feels depressed, or why he feels this or that. And you've had so much experience now. I mean, I'd love to hear your backstory, but I'd rather just sort of go into, what does soul retrieval mean, and what do you do, and what have you seen, and what kind of do you marvel at it, what your sessions can do in terms of removing parasites that people don't even know they're being attacked by?
Well, it's a loaded question, but I mean, where do you start with it? There's so much life going on in the unseen. I mean, I call it life. They're very disconnected from anything sort of benevolent. So maybe not life in the general sense of the word, but there's other things going on, let's say, in the dimension which is closest to us. And yeah, unfortunately for us, most of the stuff that is in that dimension is what I would say malevolent. And there's a whole array of different energies or entities, if you want to call them that, that are really trying to use us as batteries. Human beings are incredibly powerful energy generators. This is the way I like to sort of spin this into a positive, because when you start going down these roads, it can all sound very kind of scary and maybe a bit depressing and that kind of stuff. But really, when you look at it, these energies, these entities, they need our energy to survive. And we're incredibly powerful. And this is the whole trick of this matrix. The biggest deception that they have got us to believe is that we are worthless parasites walking on the earth. We have no power. We need other people to lead or save us. We're just no good. We're a bacteria on this planet. We're just little me. When in actual fact, the total opposite is true. And yeah, as I say, we're incredible in that respect, in the fact that, we are, I feel that we have God, universe, essence, whatever you want to describe that energy as, working through us. We're a fractal of that. And, the trick is that they have got us to look outside ourselves for that connection. And I speak a lot about, on my channel, this false God matrix, this kind of religious God, or, people looking outside of themselves for this connection to a God, when in fact we're actually walking around, we already have that connection. So when I speak about these entities and false white light beings in terms of angels and things like that, people especially if people that are in the heavy into New Age stuff, they can get very triggered. And almost what you see is that a lot of people use these things as kind of something to lean on to feel safe into. And I guess with my work, it's sort of taking away people's comfort blanket and their ability to lean on these ideas that have been so heavily promoted in the New Age as being good. But like I say, if only we would realize that we don't need to really connect to anything outside of us. And the biggest key out of this really, and the biggest manipulation, is the fact that wherever you look, wherever you turn, we are being told that we need to connect with something or give someone our power, whether that be a corrupt politician in this 3D, third dimension, or some kind of guru, or in that dimension, some kind of angel or false god or something. There's always something that we need to be giving our power away to, or something or someone needs to come and save us. When I know it's cliche and we hear it a lot in alternative media, but we really do need to be our own saviors. And there's so many different programs out there. They really don't care what savior or leader you believe in, just as long as it takes you down the path of moving away from your own realization, your own sovereignty. And
I mean, I told you, we've chatted many times, and I told you that I couldn't believe when I woke up just to this earthly matrix. But I think the most sobering thing is, as I pulled more layers of the onion off, I'm like, no, come on. There's deceptors on the other side. Like it just, and so, to put some meat on the bone, that's one of your phrases that I like. If you're doing soul retrieval, let's just say I show up, I had a session and, you used the pendulum and you were like succubus, incubus. I mean, I totally I felt lighter. I felt better. I felt less fearful after this, and just an overall kind of a more sense of ease. But the idea is we're always attacked. Even if we clear, we're attacked again. So part of the thing is perhaps we should learn how to do our own energy work to clear ourselves. But what are you seeing? Like, why do people's souls need to be retrieved? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, just on the first point, everyone has a kind of different level of targeting. Your average Joe down the pub who's not interested in anything, he's just interested in sport and getting drunk, and he's not likely gonna be targeted in the same way someone looking into this kind of work, or someone that's on the path to, I don't even like the word awakening, to realization, let's say. They're going to be a lot more targeted. What I've found down the years of doing this work is sometimes it's not even clear. I do feel that the empathic, the sensitive among us, what I refer to really as transmuters of negative energy, are often highly targeted. I think it's some people, them being them in the world, without even doing anything, is somehow a threat. And I've worked with many people down the years that have that kind of energetic frequency, and they get a lot of targeting. So my only conclusion to that is that there is something just about their frequency or their energy that transmute darkness. And you kind of see it, and we've all experienced it with these energy vampires, where they're kind of like moths to a light, and they want to try and dim people's light. So those people can be very targeted. I've worked with some satanic ritual abuse survivors, people that have been abducted, and you can just tell when you're working with them why they would be targeted. I mean, intuitive, very psychic about everything when you talk to them. Despite a lot of their traumas that they've been through, a lot of them have been through horrific stuff, they have managed to retain their sense of humor. I mean, the fact that they've not even suicided, given some of the things that go on, which is quite dark, you can tell why they would have been targeted. And so, yeah, as I say, people people are targeted for different reasons, some levels to the other, some levels.
You know, Tony, that brings up something that I didn't intend to totally talk about, but it's something that I haven't got my hands around my labs and people having interdimensional battles, being tired, not remembering, but their bodies, some people have broken bones. Now, okay, we could have a whole session on just the astral and what's out there, but what, you talk about being targeted. Is part of being targeted that you could be a MyLabs and you could have interdimensional battles, and what are you doing in these battles, and can you be killed in this battle?
Yeah, I don't think they can. I mean, yeah, like you say, you could. This could be another podcast altogether. But I mean, certainly, many of us, when we just go into dream time, we're fighting battles in the astral. That's one of the reasons that we can wake up feeling quite drained. We've been off, doing all these things. Another reason that you can wake up feeling quite drained and tired is because they've overlaid the astral body. And so what happens at night is they will use our subconscious wounds against us, project bad dreams or nightmares based on our wounds. And then when you're in that kind of fearful and anxious state, they'll be siphoning your energy while you're asleep. This is why sometimes you can sleep for 12 hours and not sleep and feel like you've not slept at all. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about encouraging people to do their inner child work, because they use those subconscious wounds all the time against us, our triggers. When you get triggered and you're off your center, something triggers you, they'll come in and they'll attach. And that becomes even more problematic when you're trying to have relationships, whereby, obviously these entities, they're not a big fan of love anyway. And, you've got two people there and they're triggered, that they're going to come in and try and ramp that up and cause more arguments. And, it becomes a real problem, especially when you've got two conscious people that are trying to have a relationship, because that's even more of a threat to them when you have a couple that are conscious together and they're working towards the same goal. So, so they will use those wounds against us. We don't always remember these dreams because they wipe our memories, so we forget them. But in terms of
it's just astonishing that the population at large is experiencing this stuff, and most people don't even question who they are or how they got here. And I remember you said in one of your interviews, these are entities that you're supposed to turn right and they make you turn left. And that, I know there are times where I was like ready for just incredible, manifestation of whatever it is. And it's like something showed up, a phone rang or someone came up and I got distracted. And, in general, I've done I'm pretty okay, but my point is I'm convinced that there's something going on. And is it stuff like that?
I can, one day I will write another book about this, but I mean, it gets to the point where it's quite funny, the things that they get up to. I mean, I've had people before a session where they've had voices in the head telling them to cancel, that it's not their own voice. They've had me show up in dreams as this kind of negative thing to try and get them to cancel. They lose their wallet so they can't pay me, or their internet goes down. Interestingly enough, I had a scenario a few months back. I appeared on this big, quite popular podcast in the States to talk about all this stuff. They hate people speaking about this. And literally, this had been planned for about a month, and it was going to go out to a lot of people. And I kid you not, about 10 minutes before I was due to talk, some builders came in next door and they started building and drilling. And I've had times where, I've just wanted peace and quiet, and things have happened. They've started the matrix is always sort of there working. And yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, the word, the term false light is creepy. I mean, when I learned that wasn't even in my vocabulary until, 7 years ago. And, I read an article by Cameron Day, why I'm no longer a light worker. And he's someone that I had an immense amount of trust in. And he's the guy that led me to you and everything else. But, he's like, he realized everything he was dealing with that was representing themselves as light in the astral was when you attacked it or questioned it, it turned into like a demon or something.
Yeah. I mean, they're master manipulators. They're master masquerades. Just like, it's just the same expression here in 3D that's working. I mean, it's the same energy working through our politicians. But the thing is, people just think that they work through politicians, and the 1% they don't. They can work through your next door neighbor, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they know our weak spots. They know us better than what we are. They know what button to push. They know, for example, if you're someone that maybe you've got a big ego, they'll come in and they'll say, "Oh, you're going to change the world with this information," and you'll get this channeled information that will be completely distorted, where people might feel like a false high, and that's what I refer to it as. And then there'll be the crash, and this is why people, when they come to me, they've spent 10, 15 years in the New Age. They've spent thousands of dollars on angel healings and different activations, and their energy's completely, they've got no energy. There's like,
they've been eaten alive, right? I mean, Rudolf Steiner, someone I got into recently, and he's from 100 years ago. He was, lecturing at Oxford and in Germany and Berlin. And, he talks about there's 3 or 4 bodies, the physical is like the last, and then there's the astral and the etheric, and, and then there's the ego. So there's like the physical, the astral, the etheric, and the ego. He talks about 4 bodies. But whether that's true or not, it was 100 years ago. And he basically talked about how, there's so much more to us, than just our physical body. But, the average everyday person is just so busy paying their electric bill. They have no idea what the condition of their etheric energy body is. And your work can help fix that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the hijacking there's different levels to it. I mean, the energy bodies are hijacked just like the other sides to us are, and they'll target areas of the brain. Sometimes they'll. I mean, I was working the other day on someone's motor cortex where there was implants going on there in the hypothalamus of the brain. They really go for as much as they can, and you have different implants. I mean, I've been finding a lot of helmets lately, like this metallic helmets, heavy duty, metallic stuff looking things like that. There's metal plates, there's grids, there's different torture devices in the astral, and I mean, it just runs and runs. I mean. But the key thing is to get it to like a manageable level. You're never going to completely clear all of it. I mean, it's just even this morning I was clearing stuff off myself. So it's like a computer game, really. That's
for me, I can only understand it in a very kind of general, broad sense, because I don't have the ability to connect with my true self, or I do, but I haven't worked on it, where you did. You were in real estate. You said you're having enough of this. One thing, I never really talked to you about, and I haven't heard you talk much about, is remote viewing. Because that fascinates me, that the military has been, doing, training. This is why they like people to know if they're psychic and all that. And they go after they chase babies that they think are psychic. And, I hear babies are stolen, and they raise them in military labs because they want these people to remote view. And to me, the way I understand remote viewing is like, you could literally remote view into my room and see what's in there. Like, you could see the coffee mug. And could I see you if I could remote view?
Yes. I mean, it's a good point that you raised, because just going back to targeted individuals, see, everyone has psychic abilities. What I do is no different to what you could do or anyone else on the panel could do. It's the difference between you and I is I've spent 6 years practicing, and it's like a muscle. So if I was to just use my right bicep and never use my left bicep, obviously I'm not going to be able to pick much up with my left bicep, and it's going to get weak, and it's really like a muscle. So we're all born with these abilities. It's just obviously we're never told about them at school. Of course, they're not going to teach us how to remote view and things like that, because it doesn't benefit them. So we grow up not thinking that we have these abilities. And of course, anyone that mentions any of this, they seem like they're just disregarded as wacko, crazy, or, you know, whatever. So yeah, it really is a case of you just need to practice it, and for sure anyone can do it. But some people, when they're born, and you know, I talk a lot about the idea of human and non-human souls. Human souls being the ones that are, you know, coming round and round on this soul recycling mill that I speak about. The false light, when they die, going to the false light, you know, being tricked back down, guilt tripped back down to resolve karma, and then memory wiped so they forget their previous lives, and then they're being used as batteries again. So but then you have at the same time these sort of non-human souls that are, you know, they're more connected. They've not, maybe this is their first lifetime here, or they've not had many lifetimes here, so they've not suffered all this ancestral trauma and stuff like that. So they, by their very essence, are generally more targeted, just simply because they're more connected. And quite often a lot of those souls are very psychic, you know, that a lot of them will explain from childhood. They could see things and feel things, and so that ability is not so dormant within them. So they will be targeted quite often just for being more connected into their psychic abilities. So I do think that moving forward, what you said earlier about, you know, I guess we have to become more stronger in learning how to do our own energy work. And, you know, I've got future plans on, you know, what I'm going to do in that respect to help people, and things like remote viewing. You know, it's we have to practice that and strengthen those abilities, because really that's where this whole manipulation is coming from. So if you can master that realm, and I'm not saying I've mastered it yet, I still learn every day, but if you can get good at working in those dimensions, then not only are you going to be able to protect your own energy more and clear things more, but also you're going to be able to help others. And really, I guess, you know, there needs to be a lot more people doing what I'm doing, and I don't say I have the holy grail, but I do know from feedback, and, you know, that my work, people feel benefits from it, and I think I've got a good handle on what's going on in that dimension now, and yeah, I think that's sort of that shows up when I get feedback from people.
Well, it's like you're cleansing your body of negative energy, so you're not only are you sort of empowering yourself, but you're protecting yourself at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I have more. I want to ask you one quick question. So, are these realms where the Palladians live and the Arcturians? Is all this true, or is this just like sort of trappings of the false light? Like they don't really exist?
Oh no, they exist, but they're not good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the kicker. So you know, unfortunately, it's a mess out there, because a lot of healers are working with channeled material, Arcturian and Pleiadian, and these so-called friendly aliens. And again, it's just another expression of the false white light. They're just masquerading. You know, they all exist. They all have their own agendas, but they're all, you know, they're all very kind of malevolent in that sense. But they appear to us as, you know, benevolent. I mean, so you go on some of these YouTube channels and people are just waiting for them to land. And I mean, they're not even physical beings. They exist interdimensionally. And so, but, you know, it's just another agenda, the Galactic Federation of I was going to say another word there, rhymes with light.
Oh, shite.
Yeah. And
The
all
Federation of Planets. But listen, I gotta pass it on because we don't want to go too long, and I could talk to you for an hour and a half myself. But thanks for coming again, and it's a pleasure. And I'll pass you to Mary.
Okay.
Hey, Tony, a lot of interesting things there, trying to decide where to pick up. Maybe you're talking about the false light, and so what is there then the real light, the truthful light, and then what is that?
Are you going to ask me if there is anything good out there? Well, see, the way I see the fourth dimension or the astral realm, or however you want to call it, is I see that as like a fake dimension, whether that's been set up intentionally by these beings. And what happens is when people do things like psychedelics, DMT, ayahuasca, which there's a huge push to get people to do that. It's almost like a pilgrimage now. You wake up from the illusion, and then the next thing that you do is you need to go and take ayahuasca in some Peruvian jungle. And you had like CIA operatives like Terence McKenna promoting all the psychedelics and stuff. So the way I see it is that we go way beyond 4D and that astral realm. And I think what people are tuning into or seeing on some of these trips is they're just seeing more kind of deception. It looks different, it all sounds different, and they come into interactions with these entities that are obviously masquerading, and they think that they've got a true sense of what reality really is. And for me, the fourth dimension isn't a true reflection on what reality is. I think we go way, way beyond 4D. And what that looks like, it's difficult to actually say, but I just feel that, if you're talking about the real God or the real essence, it wouldn't be a zone where, reptilians and greys and all that sort of stuff is just dwelling to sort of siphon off our energy. So I feel that that's just another sort of strand in the web, another layer of the matrix. And to answer your question more specifically, I guess, is that I think the true God or fractal of God universe is working through us. I mean, we're creative beings. That is what essence energy is, where it's creative. So I don't think we have to look far, really, in terms of looking for the true creative essence. I mean, I always think, like, when you look into someone's eyes, they look like mini universes, right? And I think that's very telling. I think that's really a true reflection of what we have working through us. And I know through working with other good remote viewers that when we look at our energy bodies, it's such a massive expansion of energy. So I think when you're asking, like, where the true God or the true creative spark is, I think it's very much within us. And the way I see this is a matrix of many matrices. It's like a computer game. And we, as souls, if you want to say, we've had many lifetimes. Some of us had many lifetimes here. We've had many lifetimes in other matrices. Some matrices might be long, some matrices might be short. Some matrices might be good v evil. Some matrices might be some sort of paradise. And this matrix is a little bit like the Sims gangster version, the Sims gangster planet. So, the Sims is obviously quite a long simulation game. And so this is like a badass computer game that goes on maybe a little longer than other matrices. So yeah, I think that's that's how I see it. I don't see God, creator, essence of anything to connect outwards to. I mean, you don't even have to connect inwards to it. It's just you are a part of that. That is working through you. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yeah, that does. And for you, do you see, I don't really hear that you see like a God necessarily specifically. So like just going back in like the history and the creation of this earth, like, and human beings, like what knowledge do you have about that?
In terms of our history, I think, within the New Age and other teachers, they put nuggets of truth in, but then they also layer it with deception. And I do feel that there is some kind of truth with the whole Atlantean theory. I do feel that now I've had direct experience for a number of years dealing with false white light and how deceptive and manipulative it is. I would very much imagine that at some point in our history we were hoodwinked or manipulated into, or tricked into something which has resulted in our demise. Probably it was technology at some point. And I think what's happening here now is we're probably repeating that kind of timeline. What's happening right now? Well, we've all been tricked into technology. Everyone's got a smartphone. The kids are, they've got it in their ears playing. It's just, so we know really that, history repeats itself and timelines repeat themselves unless we do something to change that. And I feel that, at some point in our far, far history, these beings showed up, and I don't know what happened, but we got maybe greedy with technology, and then we started using it for maybe negative purposes. And then I think that's what the biblical fall of angels could be about. So that's my theory on what I feel has happened. I definitely feel there's been some sort of manipulation into tricking us into the current condition of what we're in now, which is slavery. And I guess through the eons, what they've done is they've continued to feed us this idea that we're not good enough, we're not powerful, we have no power, we need them to survive. That's how they've got us, really. And this whole idea that we need them, when really it's another inversion. They need us, because without us they don't have any food supply. And but they've managed to convince us over eons of time. And it's very difficult to just, for a lot of people, to go to that leap of, oh well, I'm all powerful and I'm strong and I'm worthy and all of that, because I think we also need to do our own inner work in that as well, and to really anchor that feeling that is what we are. So yeah. Yeah,
and before, like, we got hijacked by this other, force, or these beings in that dimension. What was the original purpose, or was there one that you know of humanity?
What was our original purpose? Maybe I believe, or I feel that this because Earth itself is beautiful. Whether you believe it's flat or round or triangle shape, it's really irrelevant. Nature and this planet is, any one of us could look outside of our windows now and find something amazingly beautiful, I'm sure. So it's not the planet that's the problem, it's this kind of interference that's happened. And so, sorry, I forgot what your question was.
Oh, like our purpose, our original purpose.
Yeah. So I feel like this was a matrix whereby we were maybe just going to have more of a calm time and experience joy and happiness. And I think that maybe for a number of years we probably did that, and we would have our own purpose within that. You know, just the growing of civilizations and technology and you know, different aspects of any civilization. But I think that this was probably supposed to be a more peaceful existence for us all. And then, like I say, I think that we just got manipulated and hijacked, and our consciousness got hijacked more than anything. Our minds through mind control and everything. And we've just descended to the point now where we've got people around, walking around, blocking their airway to breathe life force energy, right? So we've gone full circle. We were probably very advanced, and now we've just gone completely the other end. And the thing is, people have been told for so long now that, you know, we're this bacteria on the earth and we're no good enough, that it's very difficult for them to sort of shift out of that without sort of doing deep introspection, inner work, and you know, going through the layers of understanding and realization. So it really is an inside job to have that realization, I think.
Thanks. And also, Tony, how did you become aware of all the, basically your spiritual knowledge? And I know you speak about you have to practice and do the inner work, but how did you become aware of certain like spiritual truths and teachings?
By accident, a lot of it. Well, accident or synchronicities. Because I wouldn't say I was very much New Age, but I had gone down the road of, you know, Reiki and all this stuff, which, you know, Reiki energy is just it's a false grid that they've built. It's, again, you'll get a false high out of it, but long term, it's, yeah. And also they've these symbols, they feed through the symbols. So Reiki's a whole nother rabbit hole. But I was into that, you know, I was into that for a while, and I did my level 1, 2, 3, and, you know, went down that rabbit hole. But it was through my own experiences. I've spoke about this quite a few times, where, long story short, I had a lot of psychic attacks going on from the military for putting out a video, really questioning what they do, and it went viral, and I just started getting all these energetic attacks, and I didn't understand them. I was walking around, I had no energy, my anxiety was through the roof. I was like, you know, what's going on? And I managed to. It started really with the chakra removal for me, and then, you know, from there, my own psychic abilities started to increase, and I was practicing a lot as well, obviously. But I felt like that was that lit a fire. It really, I kind of had a aha moment when with that whole chakra removal, because at that point I realized that it was the same. There isn't really this kind of, I mean, there is, but in the New Age spiritual realm, it's all just more deception. So it was really right. Okay, these guys, they're working in that dimension as well now, and you know, the chakra is obviously a big part of that. And then from there, I just started, you know, questioning a lot of the other stuff, and then I started, you know, as I was working on clients, seeing different things as I strengthened my own sort of remote viewing abilities. I started seeing implants, and then I started to see that a lot of the implants that I was seeing looked like things that, you know, Elon Musk is bringing out, like with the neurolace and and then I started joining the dots and thinking, well, okay, it's quite clear to me that the stuff that they want to do here in 3D with transhumanism and all this is it's already there in 4D. So then I went on this big sort of research of all the different technologies that are existing here and that they're trying to bring out here, and I realized that there was complete correlation from what was already there in the astral. And as I was expanding my own sort of modality, clients were feeling bigger shifts, and so that gave me it gave me the confirmation that I was kind of on the right tracks with it. So it was almost like investigative as well. And then, of course, the more stuff that you remove, the more clearer you get, and the more clearer you start to see things and perceive things. And then so it's just grown and grown to what it is today, whereby, you know, I've really sort of got a wide or a large amount of junk, let's say, that I remove off people through the 6 years. And my biggest teachers have been my clients, because I've listened and I've heard the same thing over and over again in different variations, different forms, especially about the targeting, about the false white light, how people have gone off, they've spent thousands of dollars and they've come back, they feel like rubbish, and you know, they might feel good for a short period of time, but then they're always back to square one. Some of them are no further forward. And so that led me to question, well, you know, what's going on with some of this stuff? And then obviously the false white light came in even more with the whole working out that really they're all just deceptive, and channeled material is really, you're just channeling these beings that are masquerading, and they'll blow smoke up your ass and tell you you're great and all this stuff. And you know, yeah, so I mean, it's just come through working with a lot of clients down the years, really, and kind of being a detective.
Yeah, super interesting. And so my last question is, you know, when you're working with people, just, you know, by, you know, looking at them, can you like tell certain things about their past or their past lives or their energy?
I don't really go into that stuff. I mean, the way I describe myself is a shit shifter. I know it's not very glamorous, but I'm not really into sort of going into people's sort of past lives, and I'm really just there to just remove the stuff that shouldn't be there, and or as much of it as I possibly can. And through that process, then, you know, if the client wants to do other things with that, then they can. But I mean, the inner child work that I do, that can often go back, that can go into past lives and stuff like that. But that's not me intentionally seeing into it. That's just the client, you know, bringing back subconscious memories that have kind of been lost. So during a session, I don't really focus on past life stuff.
Thank you. Due to time, I'll pass it on. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Tony. I totally resonate with everything you're saying. I remember when I was really young, maybe 3 or 4 years old, sitting in church and just contemplating how humanity got it so wrong, that we are, you know, making Christ into a savior, and we don't realize that God is within each of us.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably the biggest way that they manipulate us, that we don't realize our inner power. And so I started a podcast just to get people to realize that they have this power within to heal themselves and to create their own future, and that we are creative beings. And so I just love what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, love it. I wanted to talk more about how we're used as a battery.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to explain this concept to somebody that was in deep emotional pain. And I was just trying to say to them, stop, because you're like this giant milkshake right now. Just stop. There's no need to do this. So, but it's hard for people to get their head around. So could you just describe the different ways that we're used as a battery? You know, I think there's, you know, emotions that we're played with, you know, sex that's without love, you know, like so many ways that we're manipulated and used.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously it's all about energy. That's their main food source, because without us, they wouldn't exist. So they constantly need us. Humanity is like a farm, basically. We're all being farmed for our energy through different ways, like you say. And prayer energy is one, this prayer energy that, I mean, I've said so many times, what's praying? When you're praying for something, your food, right? So when people are praying, they think they're praying to God. They're not. They're praying to this false God that's just eating up all that prayer energy. You've got like millions of people going to Mecca and walking around that thing, and you've got the Christian version, and so there's somewhere out there's some big entity calling himself God that's been here for a long time. I mean, this narcissistic God that wants you to go to church every Sunday to worship him. I mean, I've said before, like, you wouldn't worship your mother. Like my mum, she created me, or in this dimension at least. And can you imagine? Can you imagine a God that needs all this worship and attention all the time? I mean, like, if you're the creator of everything, why on earth do you need your creators to give you their worship energy all the time? It's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous, really, how people have bought religion for so long. I mean, just one look at it all, it's crazy. But it just goes back to that need that people have for something to lean on. It makes them feel better. And it's the same as the New Age. A lot of the stuff in the New Age, it makes people feel good. That's why people gravitate to it. When you can think of unicorns and angels and all this stuff that's there, it's a great thing to lean on. But where has it got us? I mean, all this stuff that we've done all these years, we're more enslaved than we've ever been, to the point where we're not even allowed to breathe through our mouth now, without, in some places, people getting fined and arrested. So how has this God served us, really? Where has it actually got us as a species? Same with all the other stuff that we believe in. Tradition as a whole, it's like, I've had it so many years with things like the chakras, like, oh yeah, but Tony, old monks in India, they used to use the chakras, and well, so what? Like, we're enslaved. They were enslaved. We're still enslaved. So I think we're really at a point in history where we really have to question absolutely everything, and like everything has to be put on the table. Yeah, definitely through distorted sex, as you say, unloving sex, porn. I mean, that's why they've sexualized society, right? It's been going on for a long time. And yeah, I mean, fear energy, that's why we live in a world which are constantly propagating fear. If it's not some killer disease, it's some war, someone in the Middle East that we need to be scared of. We've always got to be scared of something. So it explains a lot. It explains why we live in a world that's full. And you look out the windows, I think Bill Hicks, he said all you hear is pew, pew of the birds. So they need all this energy, prayer energy, as I say, worship energy. Yeah, I mean, they can feed on good energy as well, but I guess the fear energy is like their caviar, let's say. And we see this expression in terms of all the satanic stuff that goes on, and the adrenochrome stuff, which I probably don't need to go into or tell you guys. It's the more fear and anxiety, it's more it's like a delicacy for them. So yeah, death, depression, anxiety. When you're feeling those things, they can really they really feed on that. We know alcohol, spirits, drugs. I mean, a lot of the heavier drugs can be very problematic. Cocaine, things like that. A lot of entity attachments come through cocaine. It's a very bad drug for entities. Alcohol, spirits. They call spirits for a reason. Even pharmaceutical drugs really can open a person up just the same as a recreational drug. And then into the realms of schizophrenia, and I mean it's such a deep rabbit hole. I was speaking the other day about these murderers, these mass murderers, and I've been really going down this rabbit hole lately, because I've been saying for a long time that people that murder and rape and things like that, this is not a human per se. This is a human shell with an entity working through them, posing as a human, and where the person is almost completely taken over. And I've been watching these murder documentaries, and nearly every single one has said there was voices in the head telling them to do it, and a lot of the people reported seeing the person's eyes turn black or very demonic. Or so I don't know how I got onto this section, but it really is. It really answers a lot of questions that we have about society when you go into these realms, because then you realize actually there is this force working through people. And as I say, you know, schizophrenia, I did a great 2-part podcast on my YouTube channel with a guy called Jerry Marzinski, who worked in a psychiatric ward for 30 years. It's like, Tony, these things, they all act the same way. They do the same thing. These people, they're not mentally ill. They just have entities working through them. He would describe how the day when the doctors would come with the meditation, to try and lure them out of their cells, they would bring cake and, you know, all these goodies, but they just wouldn't come out. All of them, he said, all of them wouldn't come out. So they really have had a huge impact on our species, and they've done it because they've stayed hidden. Obviously, what we can see with our visible sight is not a lot. I mean, I've had times where I've spoken about them, and I had a gathering here in Mexico. There was like, I don't know, about 10 of us, and they were asking me about all of this stuff. And the energy, we were on a balcony, the energy just got really, really dense. And I was like, they're here. They don't want us talking about this. And I had to clear the whole in the balcony afterwards energetically, because there was a lot of sort of heaviness around the conversation, because they don't like it. They want to stay hidden. They hate any kind of exposure. And yeah, it's fascinating, really.
That's the challenge, isn't it? It's so hidden here, and it's part of breaking free of that, I think, why we're here. But wow. So what are the main things you teach people to stay free of giving off your loosh, or being the human battery, or attracting this kind of thing?
Well, I mean, you can't, like I say, no one is going to be 100% clear 100% of the time until we find a way of unplugging from the astral realm, which I don't think we can, or removing that interface that we have with it. Then we're always going to be subject to some level of interference. The key thing is really to get it to like a manageable level. And, you know, there's things that are so heavily promoted in our everyday life that really opens us up to those things. We touched on it earlier, alcohol. I mean, alcohol is an integral part of every culture. What do you do when you get married? You get drunk. When you've had a hard day at work, you have a glass of wine. When you get a new job, you celebrate, you get drunk. When your birthday, it's everywhere. It's, you know, when you're watching the sport. And what's that doing all the time? Well, it's opening people up. So a lot of what we can, a lot of the ways that we can stop a lot of this interference is by stop doing what we've been doing. So that is engaging in a lot of the things that are promoted. So, you know, drugs being the obvious one, alcohol. I mean, the psychedelic community, they don't really like this information just as much as the New Age community, because they want to believe that they're taking these psychedelics and having these wonderful insights. When you take psychedelics, ayahuasca or DMT, you're literally fragmenting your consciousness. When you fragment your consciousness like that, you're really opening yourself up to different attachments. And I've worked with people down the years where they've been fine on the Friday, and the weekend they went and took DMT or ayahuasca, and then Monday they're having suicidal thoughts. So yeah, it's really sort of questioning the thing. Anything that's super popular, I really, I mean, even I haven't gone into it in great detail, but I will at some point. But even things like yoga and, a lot of the yoga poses, they're like, they're entity archetypes. You look at Cobra, and I mean, I went to one yoga class years ago, and I always thought it was strange, Kundalini as well. The yoga teacher did this weird face at the end where she was like doing that with her hands and sticking her tongue out, and I was like, oh my god, that looks really, I didn't really understand it at the time, but now I understand it more. I was like, that's the face of a demon. All the Hindu gods, they're literally demons. Yeah, so they're just it's just coming to new understandings and really questioning everything. And I don't have all the answers, I really don't, but it's really just, we really need to be careful what we're giving our energy to, symbols, sigils, a lot of this kind of sacred geometry as well. I see that sometimes on people. I see, a lot of false white light energy on people. Everything out there is, if it's super popular, there's normally a reason behind it. So for me, anything that's super popular, I automatically, I'll definitely sort of question it deeply before I give any energy to it.
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? I did Reiki for a while too, and I stopped when I realized that entities could attach to me or to the person I was doing Reiki with. And I've always been cautious of yoga too. It's interesting what you're saying. But
I mean, it really, I mean, that goes down like a lead balloon. You can imagine in the New Age community, but I guess that's kind of what my role is in life. In that respect, I've been through it with the chakras, and to this day still with the chakras. But I am going to do some more at the pineal gland. That's another one. I mean, everyone's trying to cleanse the pineal gland. That's an artificial implant. So yeah, everything. I mean, really, that I've spoken about in other videos. What we need, what's necessary right now, is an awakening from the awakening, because we have this awakening. And there's some good nuggets of truth in there, in terms of the fact that we realize that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and that in itself is extremely empowering. But there's so much BS in that whole spiritual community, New Age stuff, which is getting people in more and more trouble. And the whole idea of, I mean, the thing that's being promoted heavily right now, which really annoys me, is this whole idea of this new earth, whereby you can somehow just choose your timeline and wake up in the morning and decide that I'm not going to be on this enslaved planet where we have to wear masks. I'm just going to think happy vibes, think of unicorns, raise my vibration, and suddenly none of this is going to affect me. I mean, it's just unbelievable that so many people have fallen for that. And that is being so heavily promoted right now. The whole QAnon psyop was the basis of it. It was basically saying, well, if you're a person that is exposing what needs to be exposed, then you're working on this negative timeline, and you're going to attract more of it in. This whole BS idea that if you think or acknowledge anything negative, going on in the world or in your own life that you're somehow going to keep attracting it. It's absolute BS. And it really annoys me, as you can probably hear in my voice, because there's a real negative effect from that. Because it's like if you break your leg, you're not just going to ignore it. You'll get gangrene. You'll lose your leg. You might even lose your life. You would go and you would get it fixed and cleaned and what have you. But no, the New Age wants to tell people that you can just ignore all of this, sit back, sing Kumbaya, have a couple of yoga classes, and tyranny's just going to fall down because you've thought happy thoughts for the day. And so many people that I work with down the years have fallen into this trap. And where are they? They're 10 steps behind where they would be. And it really frustrates me, because I also see it as cowardice as well, because I feel that a lot of people in the New Age spiritual arena, they know something's wrong. They know something needs to be addressed in the world. And it gives them an excuse to just not do anything, in my opinion. And of course, the more of us that just lay down and don't do anything, I mean, you can tell that was set up through a dark agenda, because if you can get people to stand down, great, right?
Yeah.
Done. So that's being promoted by a lot of big time New Agers, who I review on my YouTube channel, which a lot of them are not happy with me, but it needs to be said. We've been walking this false awakening for far too long now, and we need some sort of streetwise spirituality whereby we reject these savior programs. We reject all this false light BS that's being put out there. We put on our armor, and it's not to say that we're totally engaged in drama and negativity and dwelling in that anger and no, there has to be a balance, but we have to face things as they are, and head on, no matter how dark. And it's only until we do that, more and more of us, we're going to come out of this. And I don't think it's going to take everyone. Well, certainly it's not going to take everyone, because we're going to lose a lot of people. A lot of these people are NPCs anyway. But the New Age it is collecting souls that perhaps have the potential to embody that kind of warrioress archetype, which is necessary for us to transcend this matrix collectively. I think individually we can all work a way out. I feel with the knowledge of the false white light and the false white light beings, for me personally, and I think a lot of people that follow my work, I'm not the first person to talk about that by any means, but I do feel that I certainly don't think I'm going to be tricked back in with what I know, and I hope other people at that point of death will be discerning and realize that these beings will show up as anything to try and trick you back in, a family member, anything, your dead dog. And we have to really be discerning at the point of death and afterlife as we are in this life. And I think we're at this stage now where we've come to, I don't know whether it's like, I think a lot of us have come to this final lifetime or final timeline where I think a lot of us have accrued enough knowledge now to get out. So really it becomes a case of, okay, I'm going to be able to transcend this and get out, and how many other people can we help along that process, and get other souls out as well.
Right. I totally agree. I mean, with the situation that broke out now, I heard a lot of, well, I'll just send it light and love. And I can't look at the darkness because that will just ruin my day. And I was like, what? I think it's time for us to get our warrior panties on. And that's why we're here. So, Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, Tony.
You're welcome.
I love what you're saying. And I'm going to pass you to Hartmut.
Tony, it's so amazing because listening the whole time to you, I see the last 30 years of my life, the whole like a movie. It is very interesting, and we talked about the potential, about the real potential of the people, and I would like to share something personally. I worked in a bank, and I wanted to become a stock trader by intuition. And by doing this and by expanding my intuition, how can I say it? I got information to connect dreams to the reality. And I saw a huge potential in these things, in transforming the reality through active dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is, okay, I got a trauma in this time, and then I tumbled down the rabbit hole in the esoteric scene, Feng Shui, light worker, Cryon, Mahatma energy, all that stuff. I was involved, and when I saw a movie, the movie Inception from Leonardo DiCaprio,
Mm-hmm.
I said directly, this is the reality. And this is the real power of human beings. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, and I agree. I've seen that film, and I mean, we know they're always telling us how reality is through movies, right? You know, The Matrix, and
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many of them, isn't there? I actually like the film Lucy. I don't know if you've seen the film Lucy, but it's where she takes this kind of pill and or this drug, and it lights up the whole of her brain. So she's using like 100% of her brain power instead of what we use. I don't know what we use, maybe 10%, maybe 5% in some people's cases. But
yes,
but yeah, I and she has all these abilities, and I'm sure, you know, we could. I think we could go. You're talking of like telepathy, teleportation, and levitation, and remote viewing, and I think really we really just haven't even scratched the surface, obviously, because it's all been so hidden from us. And yeah, we truly are, in every sense of the word, wonderful, powerful beings. And yeah, those films really underpin that, and they're telling us, you know, they're telling us. But where do they hide the truth? They hide it in plain sight, which is the hardest, which is the easiest place to hide it. So it sort of bypasses the subconscious when most people are watching that. So yeah, it's fascinating.
and it's very interesting because when, let's say it this way, the dark, or the other side, they can. I get the impression they can feel the frequencies, and if you are getting the power, they will try to smash it. For example, I had also an experience with a healer, and the healing energy I could I could feel directly because we worked on this a couple of years, and I said, "Wow, I know that energy." And then after the session, I was directly attacked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they will. As soon as you start getting on your path, maybe you start making good progress, because they can see future timelines, so they'll know you. Well, probably before you were born, they'll know what kind of potential that you have, and so your targeting will be in relation to your potential. And so I hear it all the time. People say to me, "You know what, Tony? I was just about to start that business. I was just about to take that course. I was just about to do it." And then whack, something happens. Something puts them off their path, or they get energetically attacked or something like that. So you're absolutely right. They will, you know, they'll try and interfere wherever possible. But if you're a person that is going to be some kind of a threat, even just like putting a podcast or a blog article, or I've heard that people, you know, have had a lot of interference just doing those things. So I mean, it's absolutely true, 100% many times down the years.
And Yeah, and the situation is that we, for example, like in Inception, we can. I don't know which reality the dreams are. Maybe normally they say in the fourth, but this I think this depends on the person itself in which reality it is. He is, and the interesting thing is you said that you in the etheric reality, all these things are already established. And I want to point out that, for example, there was a comic called The Future from Edmund Hamilton, which was issued between 1940 and 1944. And in 1942, he wrote a comic, The Comet Kings, where you see electronic human beings completely controlled and have no possibility to birth child anymore and all that stuff. It was in this etheric situations in 1942. And if you see it also with Star Trek, with the Borgs.
Yeah.
And the question is, how can we transform the... do you see a possibility that the human beings or that the human race has a possibility to transform this dimension so that we can transform this energy? Because let's say it this way, it is already in the etheric world. It is already so far that we will get the transhumanation. And let's say it this way. Many want to say by meditation and all that good stuff, or let's say by this esoteric thing, I want to stop this. And the problem is, do you see that it is stoppable, or do you think that we have to go through it in order to transform it?
I think it's definitely stoppable, and for sure we're in warfare. We're in spiritual warfare. I think the longer it goes on depends on us, what we do as a species, really. What I mean, as far as I'm concerned right now, I think the people that we were trying to wake up for me, 10 years, probably some of you guys longer. I think that job's almost done. I think most people have, if they had the potential, they've taken the poison dart or what have you. And so, so I think it's now more focusing on the people that are awakened. And for me, my focus is really now encouraging an awakening from the awakening. So really getting people out of this kind of fake new age spiritual, and really trying to get people to see where this is really coming from, how deceptive it is, how manipulative it is, and really to have that real key self-realization that we are what we've been waiting for, each and every one of us. We are that. There is no need to try and connect. We are our own saviors. We have to believe in humanity. And the problem is we've been beaten down for so long, and so many even have that kind of Stockholm syndrome mentality, that we've forgotten our own power. And so I think the more of us that can have that realization and help remind others that actually, we are kind of like God incarnate here, and we are what we've been waiting for, the better, really. So it is an evolution of consciousness, and it's a war being fought on different sort of playing fields. But I definitely think that we can win it. I know that they are absolutely terrified. I see that with the interference that goes on with. I mean, they're completely paranoid. I mean, they live in fear of their own demise every day. They don't have creative abilities. We give them way too much credit, way too much strength. The only power that we give them the only power they have is what we give them. And that's by our acquiescence, our obedience, and our lack of knowledge, really. But we need to stop doing that in the astral realm as well. We need to stop giving our energy to them. We're trying to connect and praying and all this stuff with things that are just masquerading. So, yeah, I definitely think that we can come out of it. How long really depends on us. I think I think when you look at it on a surface level, you can kind of think, you know, where it's going to be a tough job. But I think, you know, looking at it sort of from afar, I think there's a lot going on that we can't always see or perceive. And I think their original matrix template is kind of breaking down. This is why they need everyone, you know, jabbed up and to interface with this sub-reality that they're trying to create. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and it's very important that the people understand, or that we all understand, how deep the mind control goes. For example, our ancestors, before we started to do agriculture and farming, let's say we have a female energy, we had a male energy, and the female energy was, for example, for safety, protection, housing, nurturing, family, harmony. And the male energy was conquer, power, hunting, expansion, proud, honor, and courage. And all these attributes, especially also in the last 70 years, all these male attributes are nearly gone. So the people are more interested in having harmony and are willing to lie to themselves for the harmony. Yeah, for example, take the jab, for example. Yeah, and all the male energy is gone. So the people say, okay, you have to love, you have to be peaceful, and all that stuff. But the problem is, we are mostly pushed to our limits, and if we are pushed to our limits, in my opinion, I can't be love and peaceful. I think there is a holy aggression, and this holy aggression we need to understand in order to get the thing done, in order to get over the wall.
Yeah, I love the term holy aggression. I really love that, and righteous anger as well. I mean, you have it all the time in the New Age. Oh, you can't get angry. Don't get angry. You lower your vibration. Oh my God, God forbid, get angry about anything. No, anger exists for a reason. If anger wouldn't exist if we didn't. Anger can be a great tool for change. You know, it can drive us into taking action. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, they've completely tried to destroy the alpha male in society. That male energy, as you described, which is, I mean, male energy being the protector, the action taker. You know, the barrier between sort of government overreach and any kind of tyranny. You know, we're supposed to be the ones that protect the vulnerable. And where are most men nowadays? They're on the sofa drinking beer, watching the game as they lose all their rights and freedoms. It's embarrassing, really. So that's another huge job that they've done. And then obviously it goes the other way with feminism as well. And they've completely destroyed the family unit, and now the school is like the mother. It's crazy how we've managed to allow this, really. So yeah, you definitely raise a lot of good points there. So a big way out of this is going to be the men having that inner realization as well. Of like, hang on a minute, I'm a man, and I've really sort of pondered on this a lot, and I think it's a really wonderful thing to be a man. It's a wonderful thing to be a human, but it's also a wonderful thing to be a man as well. When you consider, or when you really sort of ponder what the true essence of a male is, you know, I think it's a very high honor. Obviously the females as well as the creative aspect. But I can't really speak as a female, obviously, because I'm a male right now. So, but I feel that true calling of male energy, if we can embody that, enough of us, I think that's a real honor. And that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see a lot of pride coming back into men for being male. I mean, feminism, and I'm not saying that, you know, all men are great. Obviously, there's some men out there, just like there's some bad Christians, there's some bad Muslims, there's some bad females. But I think, generally speaking, if we can get back those things, those dynamics that you're speaking about, which comes with realizing who and what you are, then then we will be a force to be reckoned with. So, and there is a big movement in male energy as well coming back. There's a whole red pill, which gets a bit distorted as well, but that community's doing some good stuff about sort of bringing that energy back.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I pass to Grace. We can also make a very good podcast together, but I pass to Grace. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, hello, everyone. I was having such a good time listening to all of you, because sometimes I thought, I think I'm going to ask this question. But then you, Tony, you have covered many things that I had in my mind, and thanks to all of you as well. But since you mentioned about the man, I usually say, because I do have some expectations with men, so I tend to say that when I want to really emphasize this to a friend or to a family, it says, so be a man, okay? Be a man, or else I will do that. So then, and then I kind of feel bad that I say that. But there are certain roles that we all have to take in anyway. And when it comes to electromagnetic frequency, I think of it as like, the male and the female energy, and that complements and becomes the electromagnetic frequencies, and that's all comes to a child. So yeah, so it's important. And so Tony, also so how do you, when you said you clear the space, because you had that you were having a conversation or an incident, so like for us also, I think sometimes we want to clear the space as well, either after we do the podcast, before the podcast, or okay. So what's your best, maybe simple suggestion for us that we could clear our space?
Well, the key thing really is intention with any energy clearing. I mean, I do use a pendulum, but I don't always use a pendulum. Sometimes I just use my intention. So you could, for example, you could fill the room with your own energy. You could see it expanding out into the room, and you can program your energy. So for the next hour and a half, the room is just full of your energy, because don't forget you have the fracture of God working through you, right? Or you can imagine golden light, or you can just walk around with a pendulum or sage. Or it's really the intention that is the more important thing. The how really is less important. But certainly that's a couple of things that you can do. You can also do that at night. A lot of people get interfered at night. You can imagine your bed or your bedroom just filled with golden light, your own energy, and really just program that to just stay there until the morning. So yeah, there's a few different techniques.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, I think we all in agreement with the intention, because sometimes also if in terms of personal relationships, if in case we come across in our action a little bit confusing, sometimes we kind of just go back to say, look, it's not my intention to really do that. Let's clear it again. So thank you. And one thing that you did mention earlier, which I also like to, for you to comment more, is when you said that when you look at, like you look at yourself in the mirror and look at your eyes. And lately I've heard that also, that when you look at yourself in the mirror and look through your eyes, it reminds me that I'm basically looking at the source of creation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then when I think of that, then I don't become like separate or too far away for that source. Okay.
I think that's a wonderful way to finish it, because that really is the underpinning of everything that I'm trying to get across to people is, yeah, this stuff exists, but look at what you are. Look at what you are. Feel what you are. And no more little me syndrome.
And then, of course, when you're having a conversation or looking at someone on the maybe in YouTube video, unless it's face to face, then you look at the person on the eyes. Or when someone is sick, their eyes really look different.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there's a whole healing modality around iridology, isn't there? I mean, around people's eyes. The eyes tell a lot. Eyes are the window to the soul, as we know. And it's fascinating going down this, these serial killer rabbit holes that I've been researching lately. I really look at their eyes. I spend a lot of time looking at their eyes, and you can see, like in some cases they've been totally black. They've pictured them where they've been totally black. And a lot of the victims, before they were murdered, some of the survivors have generally said there was something in the eyes, or he said, "Don't look at my eyes," or the eyes went black, or something along those lines, which really just again just points to the same thing, that humanity, this evil that we see in humanity is really, it's not really coming from humans as such. It's coming from a lot of the interference and in some cases complete entity takeovers. So yeah, we're all learning and really understanding what's going on here, but there is definitely an expression of darkness that has been manipulating us, and it will show up as the light in some cases. So we need to be very careful of that.
Okay, thank you again. And have you? I've heard this statement lately that it wasn't intended in the billions of years ago. It wasn't intended that there should be this massive conflict of malevolent and benevolent, and but then it did happen, right? So now they and it says also, from what I just understand lately or heard lately, is that science, the problem is that there was a split between science and spirituality. And now we have a science that's consciousless science, and there's a spirituality that is scienceless. So instead of being together, because there is really no separation for that. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, to me, I think science and spirituality are both sides of the same coin. I think science has been very manipulative, but I think I'm not starting to think. I now 100% know that this version of spirituality that's being fed to us has also been very manipulative, and really both expressions are coming from the same cult. When you look at the New Age, that came from I forget her name, Blavatsky. She was a Luciferian. A lot of what we now
Blavatsky.
Helena Blavatsky. That was it. Yeah. A lot of what she wrote has become New Age spirituality, and so I just see that. I feel that we need to redefine spirituality. I mean, I see more spirituality. I mean, I don't know how well you guys know Mexico, but I'm here in the Yucatan. I live in Playa del Carmen, and just along about an hour from here, we have Tulum, and Tulum is like the New Age central of Mexico, right? And I can't stand it. Obviously, it's full of these love and lighters and what have you. And I always say that. See, where I'm here, there's it's a little bit more touristy, and a lot of the tourists here, they come here, and a lot of them, they go to the bars and stuff. And I say there's more spirituality here in those bars than there is in Tulum, right? Because at least they're not trying to be something that they're not. They're not trying to give their energy away to these, this false white light stuff. So I think that we have to redefine. We have to wipe the slate clean with what it means to be spiritual. This whole idea of never getting angry, never facing any negativity, just keeping our vibrations high, just doing a yoga session and think that, you're healed, or we have to somehow redefine it and start all over again. And that starts with discernment. I just feel that discernment is the key in all of this, because how have they managed to get us to this point in our timeline is through manipulation and tricking us, and they can't do that if we display discernment. And discernment is also a muscle. If you don't use it, you will lose it. Just like willpower. If you never do things to increase your willpower, whatever that might be, you go to the gym each day, you journal each day. If you're not doing something daily to increase your willpower, that willpower gets weak. So we tend to think of physical muscles just being things that need to be trained. No, our psychic abilities, our willpower, our discernment, all these other mental things also need to be worked on, and then they will get stronger. So I feel like we need to start again when the word with spiritually, and maybe we need to come up with this a streetwise spirituality.
This is such a wonderful conversation, a powerful, and it's very necessary. So it's the end of our time for the meantime, until you come back again to us. I'll pass it on to Steve to say goodbye to our folks.
Yeah. Well, it was a great way to end. And Tony, I always just really feel really great when I hear you speak. So I it's even when I listen to your stuff on your YouTube. So I appreciate your time. And for me, it was a really great conversation. Your website is transcendingtimes.org. Your YouTube channel is Tony Sayers. Are you on Bitchute and Odyssey?
I am on Odyssey. I'm on Bitchute, but for the life of me, I can't upload on there. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that platform. I'm having trouble. I am on there. A lot of my stuff's on there, but it's not up to date. The best would be YouTube and Odyssey.
Okay, great. So fantastic conversation. Until we meet again, we hope that things go the way of the warrior. I'm putting on my warrior boxers as we speak.
And thank you to all you warriors and warrioresses on this podcast. I mean, it takes a lot of work to put a podcast together. You've got editing and the time that we put in. So thank you for playing your part as well.
Thank you. Thanks for promoting me, and we'll see you again.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. It was a pretty pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.